because they're going to be recorded.
Ooh,
There you go. Recording in progress. All right, Skip. Hi, Tom, Mary Catherine. So Skip,
Are you gonna mute us all?
we could do that.
no, I'm gonna consider you all adults and let you mute yourselves.
Uh-oh.
Or be quiet, either way. That's a problem. Hey, Tom, we ready? Okay, good evening, fellow St. Vincent's parishioners and friends, and any who are joining us for the first time tonight. Welcome to our pre-Thanksgiving 2021 meeting of We Have a Dream, a world without racism. As usual, tonight's meeting is being recorded and added to the body of our meetings available through our stvincentschurch.org address on YouTube. Father cannot be with us tonight, so let us pause to quiet our thoughts and make room for one much wiser than we are. We welcome and ask for the Holy Spirit's guidance tonight as we strive to do everything in love as our Lord has commanded. May it be so. Amen.
Amen.
We have much to be thankful for as we gather as a work team this evening. We are in our second year of growth in understanding how racism has forged a deep divide between the powerful principles of equity and equality that our country proclaims and the contrary daily systemic practices that betray those principles. In September, we began crafting our team's actions to respond to what we've learned. I hope all of you received this past Wednesday, November 10th, the list of possible organizations and efforts that we showed interest in supporting, either as a group or individually. The list is the result of our thoughtful decision to choose what we might support together. The goal of tonight's discussion is to prepare us for our initiative and move us closer to sharing our work with our St. Vincent's parishioners via an eventual town hall meeting. Let's refer to that list now. Peggy?
So I will share the list, and because what happens when I share my screen, I can't see most of you. So just a reminder, if you can go down to that little thing on the bottom that says reactions, and if you want to talk or say something, if you could just use that yellow hand, I should get a recommendation that you want to talk, okay? Or if you happen to be on the screen, it might not be that you're on my screen or Skip's screen. So if you could use that, that would be great. So as we refer to the list that I'm going to pull up, a lot of Zooms on there. We know that you all have already read these, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to ask questions, to discuss anything you'd like about any of these. And please mention any pros you can think of or any cons you can think of for any of them, just so that everybody can learn from. If you have additional knowledge that we don't have, then everybody can learn the same thing. So we can proceed with more than one option when eventually we go to the town hall meeting for the parishioners. We don't have to just pick one. And a little later, we are going to poll everyone. And this poll will be anonymous because we didn't want anybody to feel pressured that so-and-so sees who they vote for. So we're going to poll each of you just to kind of see, where our hearts are at the moment. So we are open for questions or discussion about any of these, and I can scroll to whichever one you want to ask about or say anything about. So anybody have anything they would like to ask or anything they would like to discuss?
I would like to add one thing, Peggy, not to the list, but as we go, which is to just remind everyone that this represents really some time spent looking at various organizations and groups, neighborhoods, all kinds of entities, and leaving some off the list because we just couldn't collect enough information to really give you a sound summary of just what they were doing, how sound the leadership was, or any other kind of reason. So this represents those things that we could give you some sound information on.
So who would like to start with a question or a comment?
I can start.
Okay, Kathy?
So you can hear me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's two that I like of this list. The City Springs, because we already have a group that's been going there this year since September, and we're mentoring there. And we also had a meeting with the principal who explained a lot about the school, that it's really a charter school, that they have their own curriculum, and they have their own, I think they take care of their own finances. And the principal has been there, I forget how many years, but it's like maybe 7 years, or is it more than that? I don't know, but we can see that in these children, I think it's just a wonderful school, and it's only because it's something familiar to us, and they could certainly use money to forward what they're doing. They're worried about, they want to get more children in the school, I think, because they're in the projects, and some of the projects are being torn down, and that was kind of a divisive factor in their school. Anyway, so I just thought that would be, but it's only, we're talking about one school, So then I thought we need to be more outreaching than that. And then the South Baltimore Community Land Trust, because I read a lot about that, and I've been to some of their meetings. They are involved in, it's like a wide range of things they're involved in. They're involved in affordable housing, against toxic chemicals, for environmental justice, public housing projects, and they have great financial need. So, and they're also big into legislation, trying to get legislation passed. So there's just a lot of outputs there. What I didn't know, I don't know if it's a community is strictly an African-American community, or if that matters. Are there Hispanics living there? Would that matter? Or is what we have to do here have to, focus solely on African-Americans, or can it spill over? I don't know. So there's some questions. That's some of the questions I have. That's all.
That's a good question. I think we should discuss with the group. We've never said prescriptively that it had to be all African American. And I think our ultimate dream is that in Baltimore, we have beautifully diverse neighborhoods. It's just that the African American communities have been so practiced against resource-wise. So if anybody wants to comment on that, but we've never really said that what we serve, we wanted to see African-American leadership and see an equity factor there, but not that it had to be exclusively African-American.
I would agree. I would hope that. I would agree with that.
Kathy, your question about Afro-Americans, where she had the description, it said 90% were Afro-Americans that they were helping. Right there on the page that,
okay.
She had up. That's not there now, though.
Oh, it said 90% persons of color.
Right.
Mhm.
Persons
So-
of color. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, not all blacks, but a lot of
Right.
us use that term for blacks because
Yes.
Yeah.
but it could be Asian too.
And Cherry
Yeah.
Hill historically is a predominantly African-American community,
Right.
formed
Mhm.
after the war, actually to segregate some citizens that way.
Well, it said South
Again,
Baltimore. That's not Cherry Hill.
Mhm.
Can
Well,
we
I
Yes.
just
see,
need to tell you that for some reason, my computer's weird. I was frozen out, so I had to go out. That's why you lost the list.
oh, can
so
you scroll more of the list?
I
Or
will
you
be
got-
happy to do that. And I don't know how much I missed. Kathy was talking, and I did need to make a correction because I put something on one of these that was erroneous. And Dr. Raketa is not African American, and I had put
Right.
I erased it off this list, but I put that incorrectly when I had that on there. And she's been there for 15 years. I
15 years.
Kathy
Okay.
added that. And then, I'm sorry, I missed what came after that. So where did you want me to scroll, Mary Catherine?
Just
Peggy, the two
so we
people
can
that,
see others, so we can see which other
Okay.
ones are there.
I think two people wanted to respond, Peggy.
Yeah, I will get to them. I thought I heard Mary Catherine first. So St. Francis Academy was what Audrey and John talked about at our last meeting. And then the other community one was Bridge, Baltimore Regional Initiative for the Developing Genuine Equality. Audrey, I think you were first.
Yeah, I need a little help here. A year ago, we were talking about having a common fund where we were going to collect a certain amount of money. I haven't heard about that since. So I don't know what we're really choosing here. Whether we're choosing where to put money from a common fund, or if we're applying the criteria that Joe Cronin offered a couple months ago of relationship building and service and funding, or I'm very confused about what we're picking and going to vote for tonight.
Okay, so all of the above, actually. So yes, we still plan on having a fund, and I was going to mention something about that a little later. We don't have to exclusively just do one thing. Yes, I think some people are still interested in community action, where maybe you do get to know the people, where we can make an impact in a neighborhood. So it doesn't have to be all exclusive, that this is the only thing that we can pick, and this is where our money's going to go. This is where individuals are going to participate. This is where everything we do. It doesn't have to be that way. So the whole goal when we started was to acknowledge our complicity in racism and to make some sort of impact on systemic racism, and preferably by impacting an African-American neighborhood. So that goal has not really changed. Skip, do you want to weigh in on Audrey's? Because I know you're
Yeah.
more eloquent about stuff like that.
No, I'm not. Audrey, at the last meeting, the main question that we asked was whether we still, as a group, wanted to try to support some initiative together. And the answer was a strong yes. But at the same time, we were trying to reassure people who are already involved in whatever activities that are really anti-racist. That didn't mean they have to stop that. That didn't mean that we might not agree to help that in some way. But we never did veer from the fact that we did want to have some type of fund set up. And the answer last week was that we should try to find an initiative to really support.
Okay, I remember that conversation from last month, but I didn't know that the common initiative was around the fund. So I didn't know whether doing something common required all three, or I've been confused for a while. Comes with age. Sorry, guys.
Don't worry, Peggy and I have been confused plenty of times.
Many times. And one of the things that I think that the Holy Spirit helped me with must have been the Holy Spirit, because I was just stressing out so much about how are we going to pick one thing that this group can support where everybody will be on board. How in the world can we do that? And I was stressing so much. And then I think the Holy Spirit knocked me in the head and said, get over yourself. You know, there are hundreds of worthwhile things that we can end up doing, and we'll end up choosing one or two, and they'll be wonderful, and will make an impact to some little part of Baltimore. And it may be one person's perfect thing, and it may be another person's, oh boy, I was hoping we didn't pick that. You know, it'll be what it'll be. So I had to get over all my obsession about that there's only one thing that would work. And I think there are probably lots of things that would work. And we're going to pick one or two. I think Alan, Mary Ann had your hands up next.
It was me. Thank you. You know, my heart is in education. And I love Curtis Turner at St. Francis Academy. If he's the deacon who is still there running the show, he is fabulous. And I love what our St. Fee's family is doing at City Springs. And I'm hoping now that, for better or for worse, my calendar has opened up a bit, that I might be able to be of service at one of those places. But in terms of the money, I'm really drawn to the South Baltimore Community Land Trust, because we did so much work on redlining and on the intentional segregation of neighborhoods historically in Baltimore when we were learning about systemic racism here. And somehow reading what they're trying to do makes me want to give some financial, they are looking for financial assistance, and it makes me want to put some of whatever fund we might have behind their efforts. We're talking about, reparations for toxic chemicals, reparations for the redlining and the mortgages, and the attempts to create or to build generational wealth. These are all things we've talked about. And here is a project that is actually trying to repair that damage. So, yeah, in terms of the funding, I would go there.
Thank
I
you.
would also like to just support that because I always support my wife.
Because you get her.
But I was thinking like Bridge, for instance, in terms of financing, and maybe Audrey has more information on this, but they have just received a grant from CCH, Campaign for Human Development.
Mhm.
And that is an organization that could use our personal involvement rather than our financial involvement, I think. I don't know whether Audrey would want to comment on that or not. In terms of money, I'm feeling that we need to be into those organizations that do not have significant funding from outside sources.
Now, I will tell you, Al, that South Baltimore Community Land Trust also received a Campaign for Human Development. I believe it was 35,000. Is that correct, Sharon? But of course, building homes, how quickly that would go.
Right.
But I just
Yes, they
want
did receive, yes, they did receive that. That is correct.
yes, I just didn't want you to think that they didn't get any outside money, but they did.
Thank you.
Jerry,
Gary?
Oh, yes. I really like the South Baltimore Community Land Trust, and I've liked the idea ever since Sharon brought it up at one of the meetings that we had on writing the letter to the Archbishop. Anything where a community is going to be, empowered and lifted up, and I think home ownership would be wonderful for people. You know, and as Sharon had said, some like banks, a bank, something that, you know, people could go to, anything where you transform a community from, bad things that are happening and just lift it up. And I have a question though. I'd like to see some of these, I'd like to see this turn into something where crime is diminished. And I was very upset and struck by the woman stabbed in the church yesterday. The pastor of St. Leo's arm robbed in daylight right in front of the church. And I'm wondering, you know, will all of what we're doing have an impact on crime in these neighborhoods where, you know, people can feel safe and happy? People are always on the news complaining about their neighborhoods and the drug dealing going on. And, you know, if a neighborhood is more empowered, home ownership for one thing, and people having, you know, better living conditions, is it going to make a difference in the crime that goes on? Big issue for me.
Wow.
A lot of people are hurt in the neighborhoods, in the poorer neighborhoods in the city, afraid to go out of their houses. And so I'm wondering, will this have an impact on it down the road?
One would hope, right, Jerry? Because vacant buildings attract stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the broken windows theory or whatever. But I think that's something too that we, you know, we might want to
Mhm.
consider, you know, working towards, like, maybe, I mean, I don't know if you just have to pray about it or what. I mean, God knows I pray about it all the time, but, you know, peacefulness
Mhm.
in neighborhoods, because that's hurting people too.
Yeah.
You know, the
Oh.
lack of peace and fear.
Yeah.
You know, it's been, you know, it's just been something that's impacting the whole city, and particular neighborhoods of color.
Mhm.
So
Is there more to that description below too for South Baltimore community land? What else does it tell us? Okay.
Sorry.
Um,
Also, Jerry, I want to mention the legislative things that we did, police reform, and, you know, some of that
right,
impact also. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Jerry, I think you've
that's
raised a
true.
very important question. And I want to say one thing and then see if we can acknowledge Tom. He's had his hand up for a while.
Thanks.
Crime is such a, there's a complex of things. Education, when you see this squeegee kids trying to make a buck washing windshields and stuff, they're not out there trying to buy Nikes or anything. I mean, most of them are trying to support their mother's income or support the family. But the lack of employment, the lack of really decent education that's steered towards careers and goals,
Mhm.
all of that, drugs, they all impact crime. And you got to have a healthy neighborhood. I agree to that. But all those things have to come together. And I get so frustrated because I refuse to believe that city school administration can't come up with a career education model that would take these kids off the street, give them really good education bent towards either college or career path, and a paying job at the same time, give them apprenticeships, you know, pull businesses in. Anyway, Tom.
Hi. I have basically just a real simple question, and that is, recently the city is starting to promote the issue of dollar houses. And I wonder if there's any type of involvement that South Baltimore Community Land Trust has involved or is anticipating to be involved with possibly the city's proposal. There was actually another editorial that was in the paper today from the city council chair, Mosby, and about promoting this aspect of having investment, people making an investment, rebuilding a house, having 2 years of a lease before they actually take over the ownership. And I'm wondering if there's some type of involvement with, the South Baltimore is looking at specifically in their area. I don't have the slightest idea, but I don't know if that's off board or not. Basically, that's the only question I have. So
I know Dennis was next, but Sharon, is your hand raised to answer that question for Tom?
Yes, it is.
Do you mind, Dennis, if we get
No,
the?
I don't mind. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thanks.
There isn't just one way to stabilize and to prevent people being displaced. The recent announcement of the $1 program there's a lot of detail that's not out in that yet. Getting a house for $1 is so minor, because what do you do? Where is the money after the dollar?
Right.
The house is going to need extensive work. You're not going to get a pristine property. You're going to have properties in there that need a lot of work. Where is that money supposed to come from? And just giving someone, or giving them the opportunity to have a house where they have never had the history of living in a house owned by anyone in their family or their grandparents, etc., isn't necessarily in and of itself a key to success. You've got credit you need to work on. You've got to help assist people in understanding what being a homeowner is, as opposed to being in rental all of your life. You have to anticipate emergencies, and what this program has traditionally done before, the $1 house, is it gives you the house and then pretty much they're with you for a year, maybe, or even that less, and then you're on your own.
I think it was
What South Baltimore Land Trust does is they stay with you. Plus they work with you they just work with you. You're a part of them. So we're looking at this $1 thing, and we need, certainly it's going to be useful, we hope, but we need more detail.
Okay, fair.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Yeah, I've been listening to everyone tonight, and I've been struggling with where I think our priorities are to be placed, either in education or in housing. And I can remember as a young kid, my mom had difficulties with obtaining monies to buy a house, buy this house that I'm in right now. And it was very important that she was able to do it. Otherwise, there's no telling where we would have ended up, on the streets or somewhere. So although I think it's important to focus on the housing, I also realize education is very important also. And I kind of like I think it was the Gabby Fund at St. Francis. What is it called?
The Dr. Kirk Gaddy Faculty
Yeah,
Enrichment.
Kirk Gaddy, yeah.
Gaddy Fund. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's a fund that we could appreciate, and helping the students there go to higher education. But So I don't know, maybe we need like a two-prong effort.
I agree.
Just focus on just housing, that's my thinking.
Great, thank you, Dennis.
Uh,
Yeah, we don't have to limit it to one, so. And please tell me if anybody wants me to scroll to a different area. I'm listening and forgetting my job here. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add or have any questions? Do you want me to scroll over these again? If you could just say verbally, since I can't see most of you, do you want to go through them, or has everybody studied them before they got on tonight and we're finished with this?
If you could go through those slowly so we can catch the
Okay.
names. They came through when I was on retreat, so I didn't get.
Oh,
to-
okay, Mary Catherine. So the first one is Bridge, Baltimore Regional
Right, right.
Initiative.
Yeah, you've
Development
done these
Genuine
two.
Quality. Right, which you know about.
No, you can just go through them, but not too fast. Just scroll down so we can
Scroll.
catch the names, because we
Okay,
didn't
then-
do all 10 yet. For those
Oh,
of
we,
us.
we don't have 10. So then we have City
Oh,
Springs.
okay. I thought you said they were 10.
If I said that, I don't know why, but no.
Okay. Okay, all right.
City Springs Elementary Middle School, which is what Kathy Yunkin was talking about a little earlier.
Yep, the trust, okay.
Then we have the South Baltimore Community Land Trust.
Excuse me, just in terms of the schools, because there's two that are based on education, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So as I remember, the St. Francis Academy one is mostly to hire qualified teachers, and that's what that money would be for.
To keep them,
To
keep them
retain
so
them.
they don't leave.
Right. And then the middle school, elementary one, did they specify what the money for if you put money into that, what it would be for? I forget now.
What we had here was that we could increase their creative programming and extra help after school clubs to students through financial contributions. Schools in disadvantaged neighborhoods like City Springs need supplemental services, so students receive all basic enrichment help, nutritional, home support services. It could be used for books, clothing replacement, for lost mittens, etc. So the big difference between these two, probably this is an elementary middle school and SFA, St. Francis Academy. And I see Audrey has her hand up, so she may want to say more. Go ahead, Audrey.
Please, Audrey.
Actually, I don't want to say more about the Gaddy Fund. I think we pitched it last month.
Okay.
Other than to say that, it can be part of the individual group at the end too.
Sure.
I have a question and a comment, and the question is on the nature of charter schools. I'm not sure about charter schools and funding. I know we passed the Kerwin Act out of the state legislature last year, which is going to bring a lot of money into elementary and secondary public schools in Maryland. Would City Springs benefit from that, being a charter school? I don't understand the funding streams.
I heard it. Oh, go ahead, Skip.
Now, my word, please, Audrey, I've been out of education since 2008, but let me tell you where we were at that time. There are charter schools and what we used to term public charters. So, which meant public schools that were receiving the name of charter school and getting some public school funding support. That's where City Springs is. So it's not like a private charter, because everybody at the State Department of Ed was totally against public money going to a private charter. As a public charter, things vary from system to system, but the overall thing is that they get the per pupil expenditure, and that's sort of almost like an equity thing. But of course, you know that there are other kinds of expenditures that schools get, and that's where there might be some shaving or some hedging when it comes to what the charter school gets compared to what a pure public school would get. So there are some ways that a public charter is sort of kind of on its own and, you know,
Gotcha.
fending for itself, but it has maybe the per pupil expenditure. And there
Okay.
have been times when whether or not they were getting the full per pupil expenditure was being challenged or something, you know, because of central office or playing games or whatever. But that's the basic kind of thing. So they
Thank
get
you.
some funding, but maybe not as much.
Okay, and the second comment I wanted to add was for Bridge. I'm doing their monthly newsletter for the board of directors, which goes out to all the General Assembly of Bridge, and I'd be happy to send it to anybody on this call who wants it if they would just let me know. It tells you action items for advocacy around legislation.
Thank you, Audrey.
You're welcome.
Tom?
This is a question for Skip, really, as to the way public funding works for the charters. If they get additional funding from outside of, like contributions, does that get offset against what they get from the state? So it's kind of like you give it, but it's taken away with the other hand.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the state, Tom, it would be the local school district. And some of that will vary from district to district. Some districts are more supportive of public charters than others. So I would have to kind of really dig into that more to tell you exactly what goes with Baltimore. But it is true that money from outside sources does go to help the charter, you know, and I couldn't tell you exactly where, like whether they get the same amount of money to support their building needs, you know, the maintenance and all. I don't know the answers to all those.
It's kind of like, why, if you're giving it privately, but the administration is taking it away because, oh, you've got other funding, so we don't have to support you from the public funds. You know, what's the point, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm not totally.
It's kind of, who knows,
Yeah.
at this
But
point.
there are things like books and mittens and, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of other things
Yeah.
that you could.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, but there were a couple good points there that, you know, any of these things, someone can choose to do individually. If it's not selected as our community action, you can do any of these things on your own. You can contribute money, of course, to anywhere you want. So just to make that point that Audrey brought up. And then besides the communal things, we listed just a few for individual actions, such as the letter, signing the letter to the Pope for the canonization of the African Americans. And there were quite a few from St. Vincent's at that mass, which was very nice.
Before we get into the communal, could I just make one more comment about the education
Sure.
things? What City Springs and St. Francis Academy have in common is the fact that there are supplemental needs. In the City Springs proposal, you saw that they were mentioning preschool and after school activities because after school care and in many instances in a poor school, preschool care is very important, especially parents who are making, you know, like very limited incomes from maybe the level of jobs they hold. St. Francis Academy is not strictly an archdiocesan school. Actually, it's the oldest Catholic school serving African Americans in the country. And not being directly under the archdiocese means that there are a lot of things that it has to fund and fend for itself. So it's not getting a full load of archdiocesan support necessarily. So in some respects, what it has in common with the charter school is needs that need to be met, supplemental needs.
Oh, Skip, it's not affiliated at all with the Archdiocese.
No,
It gets a donation of about 30,000 a year from them,
right,
period.
which is pretty
Okay,
pitiful if you compare. Exactly.
yeah. It depends on its donors.
Thank you. Jody, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate a little bit of what Peggy was saying too, because I've kind of been thinking of so many of you are connected maybe to one of these or another. And then the list I know of the individual actions that I would really sort of foresee in your church that when you do the town hall, you could really have a smorgasbord of maybe different things that pairs or, three people might want to gravitate toward, besides maybe this big one communal chunk fund, whatever that you may develop. But all of these, I think, have so much potential for obviously helping. And it's awesome that there are individuals in your group already that are connected with most of these. So anyway, I just think that that's going to be great.
Thank you, Jody. And I think we'll have to fly you down for the town meeting.
Peggy, I heard from St. Anne's that the largest group of people signing came from St. Vincent's.
Excellent.
Yeah, so congratulations. We gave them the largest number.
I still have a few more that I got a little later, so I'm not sure what to do with those, but I'm sure there'll be another collection of them. But yeah, I think we got about 74, so that was good.
That's great.
So on the individual action, we have the canonization of the African American saints, which is what I was talking about. If anyone has not signed that letter yet, please please sign it. I think I still have some blanks I'll put in the back of church. Let me make a note. Or my secretary, Jody, would you mind making a note so I don't forget?
I'm all over it.
Thank you. So then the racial justice circle, which Mary Catherine faithfully goes to, and she and I have discussed this a few times, and it's right for individual. It's a big group right now. Mary Catherine, would you want to say anything about that?
Well, we try to get the Catholics because the many pastors will not talk about racism. So we tried to, if we could get into that parish, to show a film on 4 consecutive weeks and have small groups dialoguing about what they see about systemic racism and bias and white privilege and all these ideas, to actually discuss them in these parishes, since the pastors really are not doing that. And these are mostly in Catholic churches, but we've done it also in the Lutheran and one other. Yeah.
Right. And we thank you so much for your work on that. And we have offered them our resources too. And anyway, the one wonderful thing about it now is that Bishop Lewandowski is in charge of the racial justice piece of it for the Archdiocese. So that's a real plus because he's wonderful. So Al and Marianne. Okay, everybody together. You're muted.
I raised my hand because I saw somebody waving at the screen by the name of Sue Woodman, who doesn't have a raise hand.
Oh, okay.
ability. So this I am turning over to her.
Thank you so much. Sue.
Thank you, Al. And Peggy, I did put in the chat. Peggy, I would like to share a thought, but.
Oh, when I'm sharing my screen, I
Oh,
haven't
you
checked the
don't see
chat.
them.
Sorry.
Okay. As I read through these, there were 2 that I gravitated toward, but I thought tonight I would like to focus on one, and it's been spoken of several times, but I think the trust fund does address a lot of our bullet points as far as displacement and environmental injustice and generational wealth and the importance of building generational, no, I just said that. But I'd like to add another dimension. Since Father Lawrence passed, I've often thought that we as the church community, his church community, should do something to carry on his legacy. He cared very much about the homeless and the poor. And although the people who maybe are being helped through the land trust aren't homeless now, my thought would be that perhaps some of them may be just a step away from that. And so I think to add another dimension to that land trust, I think that would be great for St. Vincent's to honor Father's legacy by establishing a fund that would support that.
All right. Thank you, Sue. And Father Ray is very pastoral and caring for the homeless also. So we've been blessed with pastors, that's for sure. So before I take the screen down, I just wanted to make sure that if anybody had any questions about these, so then the Racial Justice Circle, then we had put up there the park ministry. I talked to Father and he said no one really is available to do that at the moment. So that would be an individual activity. And then I got a passionate email about voting rights. So I did want to include that as something that we all need to really keep in mind, and along with all the other legislative things, when the time comes, we really need to be in tune with that. But as you all know, we already have umpteen individual action items, so take your pick, right? So, all right. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything or ask anything before? Yes, Mike.
Yes, I think I'm unmuted.
You are.
You are.
I mean, this is quite a mix of things. And I'm having trouble understanding how we're going to make a thoughtful decision. I mean, there are a bunch of things that we aren't talking about, such as are we looking for organizations that have outside financial support? How important is that? Is it, or is it distraction? How we expect to involve the parish partially. You've made comments about, well, we'll have one big project and then a lot of people doing their individual things. Is that the right strategy? How are we going to engage the parish? What's our strategy for taking this to the parish? There just is so many unanswered questions that I didn't find. I heard lots of statements tonight, but we haven't really done our homework much on serious homework much on some of these, other than the few that where parish people have been involved. So what is our criteria for success in terms of the leverage we think we would have, and what would we consider a successful intervention, whether it's investing in an entity or not? Or do we look for what are criteria of where we could say it's a success because X, Y, or Z, or is it a success because teachers got bonuses and stayed? Some did, some didn't. There are lots of issues that it seemed to me we're not getting into that could really would be crucial to actually making a decision. We don't even know what it means to make a decision for the parish in this respect. But you may have ideas on that. So I'm feeling very, I guess, disoriented. Lots of different strategies for change, unclear the implications that would have for our parish and for the capacity of the organization that we, if it's an organization that we follow up on. Different kinds of organizations, some involved with legislation, some involved with teaching elementary school, some involved in middle school. And I just don't see how do we get from this general discussion to a really a refined estimate of what makes the most sense for that we could take to the parish as a recommendation. So I'm confused as to where we are.
Anybody want to weigh in?
Kathy has her hand up and then I can make a comment after that.
Okay, Kathy?
So I think the 4 choices are very good that we have. And I think,
What's the 4
pardon
choices?
me?
What 4 choices?
Well, so what were the 4 choices? Bridge, City Springs, South Baltimore Community Land Trust, and St. Francis Academy. They're the 4 choices, right, that we were looking at.
I didn't know that we were down to that's what, it wasn't clear from the discussion that we had made that call, but if you say so, I'm
Okay, and I think what we need to do is talk to each of them and say, look, we're trying, we're what we want to do as a parish, help one or some or all, and how would we be most effective? What could we do, like with the South Baltimore Land, what could we do that could be the most effective? And then we would have something to go with to the parish.
Do people agree that we have 4 choices in front of us? It's narrowed down to 4 choices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the evening, Mike, I had mentioned that we had looked at several options. Jonestown, for instance, what was going on in near the cemetery off of North Avenue and York, up in that area, St. Anne's neighborhood. There were a number of things we looked at, but we couldn't get much information on them. Not enough to tell you at least what we could tell about these 4 organizations tonight. So many of them just sort of dropped by the wayside because we couldn't come to you and say, this is really, Johnston Square was another one, is really dynamic, gung-ho, it's got strong Black leadership, it's got the good development. We heard a lot of stuff, but we couldn't pin anything down. So that's one way we narrowed down to these, because people did bring these to the table with enough information that we really could discuss and weigh. And they represented everything from education to pretty much head-on community involvement, especially with housing and so forth. When it comes to another part of your question, actually, we stopped a couple months back when we were talking about a town hall meeting because we realized we weren't ready yet. And initially, we were just ready to take our ideas and our thoughts to the town hall and ask them to bless it and move on. And then we just sort of backed up and said, no, we haven't even selected what we want to do yet. And so I think, and please correct me, Peggy, if I'm wrong, our current approach is we want to decide what we as a working team looking at anti-racism and having studied it are choosing ourselves to say these would be, or this would be a really worthwhile initiative for us to pursue. And given why we're selecting what we may select, 1 or 2, whatever, then that became part of the basis for really going to a town hall meeting, giving them a summary of everything we've done over more than a year. The conversations, the deliberations, the narrowing down on what we narrowed down, and then really get their feedback on that. We didn't even send the draft of the letter that we had written to go to the Archbishop and what's the coadjutor bishop's name?
Lori?
Lewandowski, you mean?
Yes, who's really in charge of looking at the equity and racial equity issues.
Are you gonna put your hand up?
We've got a draft that we do want to bring back to you that we think is in really great condition, but we put all of that on hold until we could feel that we were pretty strong together on, of all the things we've looked at, which hold the most interest and why, where we're kind of coming down on it. And then taking that as a stronger hand and basically finding out what the parish as a whole wants to do. Say, that's a great job, keep going, we bless it. Or we'd like for it to move to the level of a parish involved activity, not just something you're working on as a committee. It could go in several directions, but we wanted to know what it was we felt strongly about before we tried to go to talk at a town hall meeting.
We also eliminated a lot more, Mike, that we had talked about previous months. Whether Skip and I eliminated it on the side because we found out more information, or the person that we talked to who was in charge really didn't seem open to or receptive to something like that. And I kind of, like I said before, I struggled like you are doing now for months with the anxiety of how are we going to pick a correct one. And there are so many worthy things out there that I had to stop stressing about it, and that whatever we pick will be what the majority of people here would like to support, and that's what we'll support. So that was kind of my take eventually. I think Al was, or Marianne was first. I'm not sure which. Al.
Yes, I am impressed by the work that you've done in vetting. Okay, the various organizations that you've looked at. And I believe you've picked some very good organizations upon which any of them could probably benefit from our involvement, both financially as well as individually. Going into and becoming tutors, etc. And what I would like us to do as a group, as a straw poll, if you want to call it, is to send out an evaluation of these particular organizations to all of us, and to rate on a 1, 2, 3, and 4 basis, who do you believe that we should support? Number 1 being your prime, number 2 being your second, etc. Just to get, it's a straw poll, okay? So that we get a feeling for.
Rather than voting for one.
Yeah, rather than voting for one, I wouldn't do that. I think that would be helpful to get a feeling from the community. But I do believe that I wouldn't go further, okay? There's been an awful lot of work that you've put in
Yeah,
terms
well,
of vetting organizations.
I'm a newcomer, so I don't have that appreciation for all that. So I apologize for that.
No.
Oh, okay. No, that's all right.
That's fine. And to let you know what we were going to do for polling tonight, we were going to do 2 polls. The first one was everybody picked their first choice. And we were going to weight that. And then the second poll was everybody picked their next choice. And we were going to weight that a little less, just to get a feel for where the group lies, in case it's like everybody's on the same page or everybody's on different pages. At least it would give us an idea. So I think it'll get kind of what you're talking about, Al.
Yeah. And this isn't definitive. We just wanted to see, are we coming together or are we far apart? Is there any kind of tend toward consensus? That's, so this isn't like the vote, but it is a poll.
Or are there 2 that are equal?
You don't have to sign in blood. I think Mary was next.
I was going to say exactly what Al did, and I think that's a good idea, and I liked what Kathy said also. But before we can do what Kathy said, I think we need to do what Al suggested. If we could narrow it down, there might be very clearly 1 or 2 that we're just not interested in, and we don't need to waste any more time, and then spend all our time investigating the ones we are interested in.
Thank you. Rita or Denny?
I just had sort of just something to throw out there. When when Bishop Lewandowski spoke, I think all of us were very impressed. And I don't know anything about him other than when we went to the Mass at St. Anne's. But, and I would kind of guess that Mary Catherine speaks to him personally on at more than one occasion. Anyway, I thought maybe just sort of throw it out to him and see if he has a strong opinion. Since he's super involved
Yeah.
with. Just the idea.
All right, thank you, Rita. And I think Louise had her hand up also.
Let's see if this can work because I'm using, can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you.
Can you
And
hear
see
me
you.
or not?
You vote yes.
Okay. My idea was, yes. My idea was very similar to Rita's in that we've got somebody at the archdiocese that is trying to concentrate on that. And he's new with it also, as far as his position. So can we join with him to get some other ideas? Without making it a archdiocesan affair.
I saw some
to it.
negative head shaking, so could anybody want to raise a con for that?
Well, I was a negative head. I really think we need to do our own thing. I really don't want to be influenced by the diocese. I think we have a lot of wisdom here and a lot of work being done. I think we can let him know the direction we're going. But I would not ask his advice. That's me personally. I think we let him know where we're going and if that sounds reasonable or helpful.
All right.
I think when we get
what-
around to sharing with you the letter that we have in draft form, I'm really hopeful that you will all feel that it's responding to the guidance you've given us several times about that letter. Maybe that would go to the Archbishop and Bishop Lewandowski.
So let's do our poll just to see where we are. So this is anonymous. I just want to reiterate that. It's anonymous and all we'll get are the percentages and I'll show you the results as soon as we have them. So
Peg, you want to just mention the 5-3 and see if that seems reasonable to people?
well, yeah, thank you.
That's what
I
we're gonna
just
do.
said before that we would weight them. So for example, on the first choice, whatever everybody's first choice is, we'll probably multiply that by 5. And then when you, on your next poll, we'll weight those results, all maybe 3. So we'll just give it more weight. So your first choice will get more weight than your second choice.
I got a problem.
Okay. So
My
what
wife
else?
and
is-
I may have different views. So should I go down to my computer? I mean, and get on my computer?
Yes.
Actually, you should, because you should count both of you. So yes, you
Yeah.
should.
Okay.
Get to stepping.
Or wait a minute, Al, you know what? We can just add, well, no, then if you don't
And we-
care, we know, you can tell
We
us.
don't mind not being anonymous, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, then we
Not
can
worry.
just
Yeah.
tell us and we'll just add it to yours. That's, I just want to make sure you didn't care.
Well, it's a little more confusing because it's going to come up as percentages on the poll. It would be
But-
better
but
if they
I'll
could
get-
both.
I think I'll get the numbers. So many of so
Rita
many.
and Denny are the same way.
Yeah, but we
They
don't have
can't,
a, we don't have a separate computer where she can go her way and I can go my way.
Well, you all
Well,
can,
you're gonna have to do it twice. You do it once and then she does it.
That works. I think we can do
I'm
that.
not sure if you'll be able to do that, but if you
Oh.
can't and you
How
want
about
to.
if how about
Okay,
if I go
hold
on
on,
my,
y'all. If you want to be anonymous, then just text me if you want. Or text Skip if you trust him more.
Trust me.
Trust Jody, she's in Boston, she
Yeah,
won't get.
Jody's neutral.
All right, so let's try the poll and then we'll figure out you couples. If-
Al, okay, because Al has just gone downstairs.
Oh, okay, great.
It's gonna
Doesn't
take
help
him, I
us.
mean, I know that does not help Rita and Denny,
Just a minute.
but
I'll go on.
we'll need a minute for him to crank it up.
Okay.
Then he's going to try to come on his phone.
That's what I was just going to say, because there's a couple other people who are logged in by their phone only. So if Denny or Rita can, one of them log in by their phone, you'd have an individual account.
Right.
I don't understand how we're voting. I would think we just say, I think this one.
So
No,
Rita, you might have missed when I said people may want to be anonymous because
Yeah.
they may not want. So by choosing one, the 4 choices for communal action will be up
Yeah.
there. Choosing one will let you do it anonymously. If you don't care about anonymous, then one of you can just tell me afterwards. So I know who the phone number is, 410-240. That's Louise. Who is 410-218-2730?
You'll
Can
have
you-
Anonymous.
They're anonymous.
I guess people on the phone can do the poll. All right, you think Al's ready?
How are we doing this poll now?
I'll-
He
it'll
would,
come
Al
up
will
on your
pop
screen.
up.
It'll
He's
come
not,
up.
Oh, it'll come up on.
Okay.
I'm
the-
here, I'm here, but Rita and has her hand up.
Jenny's here now too. That's hand has been up, so we've been ignoring it. All right, so here's the poll.
Here it comes.
So you just
All right.
click on whichever your choice is for first choice, and then
And then you'll do it again for
Oh,
the
there it
other.
is.
Oh,
Does
okay.
everybody
Oh,
have?
how cute. Okay. Number 1.
one choice.
And submit.
Okay.
done.
That's very good.
Peggy,
Yes.
I didn't have submit on mine. I
It's
have,
on the bottom.
Did you scroll down?
at the
It's on the
bottom of mine, it
bottom.
says end poll.
Well,
Uh-oh.
it might be because I made you a co-host. We'll add ours later if you want.
Okay, fine.
Mine was the same.
Oh, messing with the ballot box. I can. see all the-
So full disclosure, Jody, Skip, and I can't vote till we're finished, so.
Okay.
Voter fraud, voter fraud.
Yeah, I demand a
So
recount.
we still have some people who have not voted, so I'm just gonna give it,
Make sure you hit the submit button if you've got one.
only
If
19
you
people,
don't, you're in trouble.
only
Well, as far
19
as my relationship with Mary Ann, I always submit.
Wise man.
We wish we had.
We will,
And this
we
is
will
being
discuss
recorded.
this later.
So
Yes, really.
This is the most fun meeting.
Well, we still have,
We got laughter.
people who have not voted.
They may not have one.
Yeah, I'm counting 11%, 58%, and 32%.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's-
I have the number of people
Oh,
who
okay.
voted.
Did you
It's
add up
25 people.
Are there people who realize that they have not voted because they don't have what they need, or?
Maybe they don't want to
I
vote.
was wondering about the phone. I don't know who that 410-218 is. If Denny, were you able to vote on the phone?
Yeah, it came up. I voted, got a check mark and I submitted.
Okay,
Like I do
so
with
I'm not
Rita.
sure, then maybe the person left. I don't know.
Peggy, how many people do you promise?
Well, yeah, Peggy, I have a total of 19 people voting.
9 people have voted,
Right.
but not
But there-
counting
25
couples,
people
we have
here.
26.
Mm.
Maybe
So
they didn't
plus
wanna
the
vote.
couples,
So there
plus
are
the
4.
couples, plus the 3 of us. So there are some people that haven't.
But you're in the 26, aren't you? So you need to make
We're
it
in the
23.
26, but.
Yeah, but that still should be only 23. and
Right,
that
but if
she
they
has around
haven't
20.
voted, maybe we would have enough information at this point that would be meaningful.
Yeah, I'm just going to end it. I just wanted to make sure if that phone person, whoever it is, I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity, but,
somebody go onto the directory and see if they can track the number on the directory.
all right, I'm gonna end.
That's all right.
If I go on by my phone, can I vote twice?
All right, so now what?
Shame on you.
Naughty, naughty.
Wow.
Wait a minute,
Oh.
You're kidding.
Peggy,
Yes. Who
Yeah.
said
we're
that?
seeing, are we going to go to
Okay.
number 2 now?
Yeah,
Well,
we're going to go
I
to,
haven't launched that yet. So what,
I
are you
see.
seeing anything?
Yeah, we're
South
seeing
Baltimore
the
Community
choices.
Trust is the
58,
You're
32.
seeing the
authority.
percentages?
percentage.
Yes.
See Results. I just want
see
everybody
it.
to see that. Okay, I'm gonna stop Yeah. sharing that.
I don't see it, Peggy. Where is it?
I just-
There on the
There it
screen.
Oh, my. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Okay,
Hey,
Back
Peggy,
and short.
yeah, I know, you guys on.
Peggy.
Yes,
can
who's
you
saying
give
Peggy?
us a little, I did, can you give us a little input on the South Baltimore Land Trust?
Since we were traveling from Pennsylvania, we missed it.
We missed all of that.
Oh, it's quite
I'm gonna do-
detailed on that
I'm
read
gonna do that
you wrote on.
offline, Denny, I'll do
Right
that.
now.
offline, okay? for it.
We had a lot of discussion. on
Was that Sharon?
I'll do it offline because Sharon talked about it one meeting and that information that we compiled was from the organization. So we'll do that offline, okay?
And this is
did
just to
they
get an
your
idea.
email? Did they get your email? It's on the email.
Rita, did you read the email?
Today's email?
No, on the 10th, she
A
said it
week
came
ago.
across on the 10th.
No, no, I have to confess I didn't. We've hardly been home.
Pull that up. There's a lot on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Alright.
now I'm gonna relaunch this and what you should do is put your second choice down.
I mean, does Louise want to say something first?
Louise, you want to say something?
Yes. Two things. One is to clarify with Al that I wasn't suggesting that we get their advice, but just to find out what they're doing with this new
Oh.
bishop.
Who's
Okay,
the they?
We know,
The Archdiocese.
some of what they're doing.
And the second is that I didn't have
You're breaking up.
the second thing is that on the choices, on the choices, I didn't have a submit one.
Okay, if you don't care about anonymous, Louise, you can
I
just
didn't have
tell
a
us.
submit button.
So if you don't care about being anonymous, you can just tell us what your first choice was and your second choice. If you care.
I don't care. I don't, yeah.
Okay, so if you wait till we're finished, then and we'll just.
My,
Maybe that's because her
Alright.
computer keeps going out or her phone in and out,
now I have a question about this second vote.
Okay,
right?
your second choice.
Can you vote for the same one again?
No.
Or, oh, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
because you're not, it doesn't seem like it's excluding what your first choice happens to have been.
Well,
So,
what,
you know, you
what
would
was-
actually, I'm just asking a question as to
No,
the
Tom.
polling process.
we
No,
act-
Tom.
This is your
Yeah.
second choice, not your first.
we actually discussed that if
Yes, we
somebody
did.
felt strongly, they might want to just put the same thing down, but we,
I'm
that's,
just
we-
asking.
That's
we-
why we waited it.
that's why we decided to wait it.
You'll screw it up if you do that, Tom.
Well, you know,
There's people want to do different things here.
okay. Just voting is done for me.
We already have more people who voted this time than last time, so. I
Maybe they figured out how this time.
don't know how to submit.
Peggy,
I do
Peggy?
appreciate the poll online like this. This
Hello?
is great. Thank you
Yes,
for setting it up.
Al, yes, I can hear you, I think. Al,
hello,
yes.
Hello.
Peggy.
We're here.
Yeah, I this time it unmuted. The 218 phone number is Joe McNeely, and I'm just passing on the voting.
Oh, okay, thanks, Joe.
I wouldn't unmute before.
Gotcha, thank you. I was wondering who that was.
The unknown.
I thought that was Al saying Peggy Pig. All right, so everybody good? I'm gonna end the poll
Mhm.
and share the results.
Yep. We knew that was going to happen because that was everybody's got the second vote last time. I mean, it was the closest vote.
All right, now, Jody, did you get those down?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so now the people that were not able to vote, and you don't care about anonymity, please tell Jody your first and second choice. Louise, is that you, the only one, or?
That's me.
What's your first choice, Louise?
I don't know about the only one, but my first choice was the, oh dear.
Do you want me to tell
The
you?
City Springs Elementary and Middle School.
Okay, and your second choice?
Second choice was St. Francis, I think. No, the Land Trust, excuse me, the Land Trust.
All right, thank you. Anybody else not able to submit theirs? Okay, anybody have any comments?
No,
Who said yes?
I said no.
Oh, sorry.
Nobody has any comments.
Great. All right, well, so thank you all very much. We appreciate that input a lot. And we think that we're probably going to have to delay a town meeting anyway because of the synodal process. So we're not sure exactly what's going to happen with that. Unfortunately, Father couldn't make it tonight, or Jerry. She had a Catholic Campaign for Human Development meeting. So when we do have the town meeting, we do want to enlist your help, all of you, to help parishioners understand our journey and the need for it and their support for what we plan to do. So when we get to that point, and we also hope to get the parish agreement on our letter of acknowledgement, where we acknowledge our complicity in the sustained racism. And so we made many of your suggestions. We changed the letter a lot. And so as the time gets nearer, we will go back to that letter again. And Marianne, did you have a question before I mention what we're going to do next?
No, I'm just hoping and praying that going through the synodal process first will give us sort of a framework for that town meeting. I think sometimes our town meetings are debate and vote. And if we can approach our question in the same way that we approach the synod, where we sit and we pray and we hear everyone out, I think that may be a more valid response. If it's, so it may be a good thing that that the synodal process is happening first.
Yeah,
That's all.
thank you. And we also will be telling people that this working group, this is what we have come up with. And even if the parish does not want to support it, that's what this group wants to do. So that it puts a little different twist on it too. And Tom, did you want to?
I have a question, and it's completely off the topic. It's back to the signatures on the letter from St. Anne's for the canonization. You said that there's copies in the back of the church, but is there a way to get it electronically, to sign it electronically?
There was a link to it on one of the e-newsletters.
I can print it off and then mail it to you if that's what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
It was on there.
Do you remember which one it was, Mary Catherine? Which?
No, but I may have, I deleted everything, so I probably don't have it still.
I don't.
Is there a link
keep everything.
Is there a link that was on the St. V's newsletter? Because they did talk about it on the newsletter.
Yes.
Right. It was on
Okay,
that.
I'll have to go back to those Sunday newsletters and find it because it's only about a month old or something like that.
Right. Yeah. When
I
it was
saved all this, so
November 1st.
I'll find it that way.
All right.
November 1st. November 1st was when, they were having the service.
Okay, and I'll mail it off to
Probably
you,
the
Peggy.
Sunday before that, either one Sunday or 2 Sundays before that then.
And I'll mail
Okay.
it off to you, Peggy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then another critical topic that we want to cover with this devoted group is how to talk to white people about white privilege. So we want to discuss that next month, December 15th. So if you would give it some thought and recall some times where you've tried to do that and maybe successes and maybe not so much success, and maybe that can help in the discussion. So, but as always, we thank you for your devoted participation and trying to eliminate racism out of this world. And we know that's going to be a long-term thing. So thank you very much. And
Are we, when is that meeting, something like December 15th or 16th, somewhere in there?
15th.
Okay. Good.
Mm-hmm.
We have our immediate Reichelt family Christmas that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I just wanted to make sure.
We'll have
We
fun.
get the kids when we can get the kids,
Absolutely.
no matter what the calendar says.
I understand completely. And Skip, and any more questions before Skip leads us in prayer? Okay, thank you all
Well,
very much. Yeah,
What a
Jack.
lively group. Thank you all.
Wait a minute,
Let's-
Skip, Jack has something. Go
Oh,
ahead, Jack.
Jack.
I just wanted to put in, I know the comments about Bishop Lewandowski, but I wanted to put in a positive sign about him. I think he's probably a little bit different than our run-of-the-mill so-called bishops, you know, and I really think he has fought tooth and nail in the Hispanic community. And I really think he would be someone that could talk to us and could give us a feel, not so much about what we're doing, but what we're facing in the other parishes of the Archdiocese. So I think it would be worthwhile doing that.
Could we possibly get him on one of our sessions?
That's what I was
just going
thinking.
to ask
yeah.
that. Yeah.
He probably would. He spent an hour with Racial Justice Circle in one of our meetings and was very comfortable with it. So I'm sure he probably would. Yeah.
Skip and I have talked about giving him a call and seeing, actually, we decided to visit instead of just call, didn't we? Skip,
Mhm.
anyway, we wanted to see, yeah, how he is. We know he's swamped, but yeah, we thought that would be very beneficial also. So thank you.
It would be
He
great
is
to have him.
he is the creme de la creme here in the diocese right
Oh,
now.
he's amazing, amazing.
It would be great to have him among us one evening for this, I think.
Yeah.
One of my friends had an issue in her parish and it was awful. And I told her to call him. She called him, he talked to her, he called her back and talked to her for an hour and a half.
Wow.
Anyway.
One-on-one. There, now that's
Wow.
amazing for a bishop.
Actually,
Yes.
it was 2-on-1. He had somebody else with him too.
Wow.
Anyway, we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Thank you.
Steve, it's all yours.
Okay. Everyone, let's close this lively evening with a prayer. Loving Lord, St. Paul describes the result of your command to love one another as you love us, as God will be all in all. St. Augustine's words are that the end will be one Christ, loving himself. Sometimes such a lofty vision cowers the few of us in such a small space, in such a divisive time and world. Help us to take courage in the practical steps to such a cosmic conclusion through the simple wisdom of the Dalai Lama, who said, "The root of happiness is altruism, the wish to be of service to others. The more we care for the happiness of others, the greater our own sense of well-being becomes. Help us, Lord, small as mustard seeds as we are, have faith to believe that what we do for the sake of others, whatever that may be, through your power truly is a powerful force of love in the creation of your reality and your will that all may be one. Amen.
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 If I may, I'd like to share the screen for one moment.
Um,
Ah,
This was,
that's great.
this was Richard Lawrence to the extreme, okay?
I love it.
That's true.
That's perfect.
Great.
Another one of our laughs for tonight, right?
Okay, I was afraid he was gonna show a picture of our grandchild, so I'm